Hello everyone, I'm Pierrette and welcome to my kitchen. Despite my best attempts to stave off the end of summer, it has arrived. And what comes with early fall and fall? Comfort food. And what better comfort food than bread? So today I'm going to make some garlic herb breadstick twists. So stay with me until the end of the video. Please make sure and check out our links for additional content. And if this is your first time, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. We're gonna get started. And here is what you'll need. This recipe normally calls for 1 cup of warm milk. But what I would like to do is substitute it with some pureed cottage cheese. I know that sounds gross, but I think that by the time we're done, you won't taste it, and the extra protein offsets those carbs a little bit, which I always like. I'm always trying to up my protein and keep my carbs at a minimum. So we're gonna try this. If it works out, then you'll see this video, and if it doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. You'll never know that it existed. So we're gonna start with 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese. So we'll just do this 3 times. There's 1/2 cup. And there's 3/4. And then I'm gonna add 1/4 of a cup of water. And we're just gonna mix this up. Now we can't, well, we could use the yeast mixture with this cold cottage cheese, but yeast likes room temperature or just slightly warmed liquid. So we're gonna put this in the microwave for about 20 seconds and let it warm up a little bit so that when we add our yeast, it'll activate. I did 20 seconds and it wasn't nearly enough. So I put it back in there for 25 more. So 45 seconds total. And then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of yeast and 2 teaspoons of sugar. And that's it for now. We're gonna mix this up. And we're gonna give the yeast a chance to bloom. So we're gonna let this rest for 10 minutes and I'll be back. So here's what it looks like after it's had a chance to bubble and become a little bit of a milky cauldron. Now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients. First thing, an egg. And then we are going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And this will make it a little bit fluffier, especially because we're putting that cottage cheese in there too. So we want to give it a chance to raise. And the cottage cheese is going to be a little heavier than milk. So I have 2.5 cups of flour. I'm just going to add that a teaspoon at a time. And you don't have to add this a teaspoon at a time. I'm doing it because it's really hard for me to dump stuff in the bowl and not make a mess. Now before this gets mixed too perfectly, I do want to add some herbs. So I'm going to do 1 sprig of rosemary, and this came out of my garden, but it's not anything fancy. I buy at Trader Joe's the little 2 or 3 inch rosemary plants, and I put them in my garden until I end up chopping them all up and then there's nothing left. And that is the fastest way that I've ever learned to chop rosemary. And I'm just gonna dump that in. And then we want about 2 teaspoons of parsley. I'm just gonna measure with my hand. There's about 1. So 2 teaspoons of parsley. And then we're gonna chop up some garlic and put that in there as well. In the meantime, I'm gonna let this mix. don't want the inside of my lid for my chopper to smell like garlic, so I am just gonna chop it on the cutting board. And this is just a little package of pre-peeled garlic, which is always a delight because it's less work for me. There you go. It's about probably a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of garlic. We're probably gonna add some more garlic with the butter at the end, so this may be more than you like, but we like garlic. We're gonna let this go for about 10 minutes and we'll check back then. This has been going for about 5 minutes and you can see that the sides of the bowl are coming nice and clean, and that's exactly what you want. When your dough is too sticky, the sides will still be messy, and when it is too dry, it's gonna be a big hard glob and it won't break up and mix. So keep an eye on it. Don't add anything for at least the first 4 to 5 minutes till it's had a really good chance to blend. But this looks great. We're gonna let it go about 5 more minutes and then we're gonna add some butter. Hang tight. I sped this up for the video, but I've mixed it on medium speed and then added the pieces of butter one at a time until they were thoroughly mixed into the dough, scraping down the sides as needed to keep the butter off the sides of the bowl and in the dough. And then I decided to knead it by hand as well to really work the butter into the dough. It's a very soft dough and there's a lot of butter in it, and that's normal for this recipe. Then I covered it with plastic wrap and let it raise either on the counter or with the proof setting on my oven for 45 minutes to an hour, or until the dough doubled in size. So I just took this out of the oven. It's been proofing, and I would say it's more than doubled, possibly even tripled, which is great because that just means that our finished product will raise really well too, I think. I just have a little bit of flour. I'm gonna sprinkle this on my surface, and I'm going to pull this out. This looks great. I'm gonna just roll it through the flour a little bit so that it's not so sticky and I can work with it. Then I'm gonna divide it in half. And I'm gonna roll it out a little bit. And I wanna end up with 2 pieces that are approximately equal in size. There we go, there's one. Just set this off to the side. We're going to do the same thing with this. And I have some butter, and I have this Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse. I'm going to take about 2 teaspoons, or 1 big rounded teaspoon. And this has a bunch of seasoning in it, as well as kind of a buttery flavor and salt. And I'm gonna spread it across. I'm just gonna run it all the way to the edges. Just a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese in there. Not a whole ton, just a little. Now we're ready for the other layer. Get your tray ready with parchment paper And then slice your breadsticks about 1.5 inches wide into long pieces, then cut them in half horizontally. Trim the edges neatly. Give them a twist and lay them out on your pan for baking. All of your pieces should be approximately the same size and evenly distributed across the tray. As an experiment, I lined one pan with parchment paper and the other with a Silpat baking sheet, and I didn't see any difference in the finished result, but it made a good experiment. Then I sprayed them with a little bit of olive oil and dusted them with a little bit of panko breadcrumbs, covered them with plastic wrap, and let them raise again in the oven on the proof setting or on the countertop for 20 minutes. And then they're about ready to bake. After they've risen, remove the plastic wrap, pop them in the oven at 350 degrees for 15 to 18 minutes, depending on how golden brown you'd like them to be. And now it's time for the taste test. These smell so good. I smell the garlic and the herbs, and the Parmesan cheese looks great. They're nice and warm and melty. And look at the texture on this dough. It's just beautiful. So good. It almost has a little bit of lamination like a croissant would have, you know, with that little bit of crunch in there. But this dough is just beautiful. I'm really, really pleased with how well the cottage cheese worked out. I wasn't sure that that would work, but it did. It's great. Perfect substitute for milk, and you get extra protein. I think they're fabulous. And I think you will too. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care.